Well, folks, in today's video, we're going to be working on this Hershey's locomotive. I believe it's a U-boat. Anyway, this locomotive was sent to me from both David Z to G Scale as well as David from DBtech. They were both at a train show, and anyway, they found this locomotive, and they both went 50-50 on it, which was very generous of both of them, and I want to thank them for that. So thank you, David from David Z to G Scale, and thank you, David from DBtech, for this locomotive. I really do appreciate it. Anyway, this locomotive actually does run, but I don't know when it was last lubricated, so I just figured, hey, we'll take it apart, we'll give it some fresh oil and whatnot, and yeah, we'll hopefully turn this into a better runner. I'm not exactly sure when this locomotive came out. It has the modern drive system in it, and I believe that came out in the late 90s, if not early 2000s. But some people seem to think that this locomotive was part of a set that came out in 1993, which also happens to be its road number, so it's not inconceivable, I guess. It seems a bit too modern of a drive system to me, but it might have just been one of their earlier ones. Anyway, let's take this thing apart and try to get it all re-lubricated. So we're just going to remove, there are two screws at the bottom. We're just going to remove both of those, and then hopefully the shell will lift off. So there's that off, and then we've got a screw here and a screw here. So if we remove both of those, we should be able to get inside here. I usually run these things before taking them apart to show the difference, but I don't know, I just figured with this one it wasn't necessary since it already runs, plus in the testing video everybody got to see how this one ran, so there's both those other screws. Now let's see if we can get this thing out. Yep, there it all is. Interesting. There we are on the inside. Yeah, I guess I can kind of see how this could be an older Bachmann. Now to get to that gearbox, I believe what I have to do is unscrew this top one here. It doesn't seem too bad, but I'll take off this part anyway. Let's give everything a general cleaning on the inside here. So I've got the other truck off. Basically, to access that, all you need to do is remove the two screws that hold the board on, slide that over, and then there's a screw right here that holds this on. So now that I've got that out, I'm going to show everyone how to take the gears out of a locomotive like this. So the first thing you need to do is remove the wipers. So you just take out the screw, and it should just kind of pop off like that. And then if we do the same on this side, just come off like so, and there we go, we got the truck off. And to take the gears out, there are little pins, and you just put a little bit of weight at the end of each of those pins. And you can see they come out on the other side, and then what you can do is if you have something, you can just push them all the way through, as long as it's smaller than the diameter of the pin. So one thing you should be yeah. I was just gonna say, one thing you should be mindful of is that once you remove those, the gears are loose. We'll just do that on the last one, and then I'm just gonna do the second truck off of camera. It's the exact same process again, and then we'll get around to re-lubricating this whole setup. So just before putting the trucks back together, I decided to give the wheels and gears a quick clean. I've already cleaned this gear, but I just happened to notice, look at the wheel on the right side here. Super dirty. I just thought I'd show cleaning this off. There's clearly a lot of grease or something on this one, which is funny. All the other wheels were not, there was a little bit of dirt on them, but it was not even close to this quantity. This is really odd. And there's like you can kind of see there's like a buildup of it. I'm going to try going at this with my track cleaner here. Even this is having trouble getting through it. Yeah, you can kind of you can see what I mean. So I guess I'll clean that off camera, but yeah, I just thought I'd show that. So there's the side I have cleaned. It is obviously better. So I'll have a go at that, and then we can reassemble this locomotive. Alright, so we've got all the parts all cleaned up, so we're now going to reassemble one of these gearboxes. And the first thing we're going to start off with is we're going to take one of the gears, one of the smaller ones, and we're just going to put a tiny bit of oil inside each side. And as always, you don't need much oil. And then we're just going to kind of drop it down into the gearbox until you can see right through the hole of the gear. And you take one of your little pins there and you just sort of push it through like so. And just like that, we got our first gear in. And we're also going to put a bit of oil right here. And we're going to put a little bit right there as well. So now both those sides are lubricated. And then we're going to take another gear and we're going to do the same thing as we did with the previous gear. We're just going to put a bit of oil in each side. This is one of the larger gears, I believe. And just like the other one, get it positioned properly. And then for the bottom ones, you take the larger pin and you just push it through like the other one. And finally, you take the last smaller gear and repeat the process with the oil. And be sure to get a tiny bit on the outside of the gear, because in this case they are making a bit of contact with the sides, so you want that to be lubricated. Well, just like that, you've got your first gearbox reassembled. So yeah, that's really all you need to do. I'm going to repeat this process on the other gear, and then we're going to finish up reassembling. Okay, so we've got the other one all reassembled, and we've got our famous grease oil mix, which is roughly 1 part grease, 3 to 2 parts oil, and we're going to apply this on the worm gears of each of these trucks. One thing I'll give Bachmann credit for is on this locomotive they actually put a very appropriate amount of lubricant. Which is something I was happy to see, because I'm not sure how many of you out there remember this, but when I took apart my Bachmann BNSF locomotive, the one that comes in the Rail Chief sets, they had just drenched the gearbox in grease. I don't think I've ever seen a locomotive with so much grease in it, so I was very happy in this case to see that they put very modest amounts of I didn't actually really find much grease. I found signs of oil that had dried, but that was about it. So we got a fair amount of that on there now, so we're now just going to kind of just let it mix in. And this will obviously mix as this turns, but we just don't want it to stay as a lump, otherwise when the motor spins, it will spin at a high RPM, which could just throw it everywhere, kind of. But if you mix it in like this, it will apply evenly, and it's just a bit better in my opinion. So yeah, that's all good now. So we've got these pretty much all lubricated up, with the exception of the wheels. The wheels bearings need to have lubricant put in them, but we'll take care of that after we take care of actually putting the trucks back in. I'm just gonna get this sort of straight and then try to position it in there. I think we've got it in place. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the wipers, the ones that have the wire connected to them, and we're just going to connect those on there, and then we'll continue assembling. So we're just going to attach the wiper here. So we've got this little screw. Okay, I think I've got it. Okay, good. So there's one. Now, I'm just going to check here to make sure, just before we get everything in place, just make sure when I turn the flywheel here that the gears actually turn, so that we know all that's working properly. So now that I know that, I'm a little bit more confident to continue reassembling this. So I now just need to find this other part, which goes on the opposite side. It actually contacts directly on the frame, which is charged with a positive or negative current. It just depends on which way the locomotive's going. I dropped the other screw. I'm gonna have to go get that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our oil, lubricate each of the wheel bearings, and then we're going to put the wheels in. what you want to do, squeeze the wipers in with your fingers. That way they actually, if you don't do this, what can happen is the wipers can wind up outside the wheel, which is something you obviously don't want. So yeah, that seems all good. Now we just need to put the truck cover on. I'm not sure if there's a way this, sometimes there's a direction this goes on better. Wheels are still turning, and you'll notice I haven't put in the top screw. This is the weak spot of almost all modern Bachmann locomotives, is this area right here. This one little screw holds the entire truck on, so if you're a bit too rough with it, it will strip the plastic, and it won't go back in, it won't hold the truck properly, which can lead to other problems. So yeah, you want to just do kind of the least amount of stuff while kind of working on this part. Okay, I've over-tightened that screw a bit. This should be able to pivot. Yeah, so we can see that that's about what we want right there. So now I'm just going to repeat the process on the other side. We'll put the shell back on, and our locomotive will hopefully be running better than it was than when we began this. Alright, so we got the other truck in, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to reposition the board and put both the screws back in here. So we want to get that right around there, and then we'll take our screwdriver, which is here. There's that side of the board back in there. Okay, she's all back together. Let's go take it to the track and test it. Alright, so we've got it all set up on the track here, and since it was already a runner, I'm pretty confident it's going to start, so I went ahead and fitted it up with an entire Hershey's consist, which consists of the Hershey tank car, which was included in the same lot, and the Hershey box car from a previous lot. Anyway, without further ado, let's run this whole beautiful consist. So let's give it some power here. Yeah, doesn't seem too bad. I know it was already a runner, but I think it is running a little bit smoother than it was before. I think we've lost our Hershey's tank car. But yeah, the locomotive seems to be running a tiny bit quieter. I'm not sure, but I thought the current draw was a little bit higher as well, so yeah, it's running quite efficiently. Let's try, yeah, that's full speed. Yeah, I think it's definitely running a bit quieter here. Oh, derailed in the same spot. I don't think it likes that switch for some reason. I'm gonna have to do a bit of adjusting, but it is a runner. Well, folks, that's gonna be it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Before I finish off the video, I once again want to thank David from DBtech and David Z2G Scale for sending this wonderful locomotive. I really do like it, and I think it's going to be right at home someday at the Hershey's factory, which is under construction as we speak. Anyway, I want to thank you all for watching.